Hello everyone, welcome to this Unreal Engine 5.7 tutorial on PCG. PCG is a method to creating game content automatically rather than manually, alright, and it will allow you to efficiently create larger and modular environments. So today tutorial we are going to focus on PCG to scatter brick meshes along a spline and also to create floors and path, alright. Later on I'm also going to touch on how to actually make your PCG available for the new 5.7 PCG tool that is available in the newest update. Alright, so the key focus of this tutorial is to use PCG to scatter single brick to create floors and paths dynamically. Alright, we are gonna utilize the Spline tool. We're gonna try to set up our own graph setup, alright, and the practical applications that you can use with this setup that we are gonna learn today. Alright, so by the end you will master how to use the Spline tool, the graph setup, custom Spline tool, alright, large scale generation, level design workflow, and also improve on your foundational skill on PCG projects. So what is a Spline tool? Spline tool is a tool that allows to define path, floor areas, and using smooth and customizable curves. Alright, I'm going to also show you how to adjust your curves accordingly, right, and place your mesh exactly on your environment. Alright, the integration with PCG is using its scattering tool, so you can create varied and scalable floors, pathways with a single mesh asset. So let me give you guys an overview of what we are going to achieve by the end of this tutorial. Okay, so in the new PCG tool that is available on 5.7, Unreal Engine 5.7, you can head down to PCG mode. Okay, here we are going to create is our own PCG tool that we can use the spline to create this brick floors that is over here. Okay, once I press accept, this will be created in my level, and if I will go back to my selection mode, I can adjust it to be a little higher. We turn off the snapping, yeah, and this will have collisions enabled, right? So this is all made with one single static mesh that is procedurally placed on a 45-degree angle and differentiating Z offsets, right? So that we have this random offsets that you can see on my floors. Okay, so how do we achieve this? Okay, let's go to step number 2. So to achieve what we want to achieve in Unreal Engine, we have to understand what is happening with the PCG graph. Okay, so in the PCG graph, what is happening is we have a spline, okay, that creates sample points for us to scatter our mesh. Alright, so first we need to do is we need to create the spline component. Alright, second we need to create the PCG graph. Third, add sample points, and then configure the mesh scatter and what it is being scattered. Alright, for our sake, we are using that singular brick mesh that you can find on Fab. Okay, and here you can repeat the process. Okay, the first thing we need to do is prepare the brick mesh that we want to insert in our PCG. Okay, so ensure that the size of the mesh accurately follows what you are trying to build, okay, to avoid overlaps with the PCG graph. Okay, and then next we'll set up the spline, set up the sample points, and then we scatter. Alright, we've started our Unreal Engine project. Okay, this is just a blank third-person template that I'm using for this tutorial. If you guys want to follow along, create your new project, okay, over here on games, third person, and name your project whatever you want to name it. Alright, so as we have our project, we need to make sure that the plugins for the PCG is enabled. So go to edit, plugins, and find PCG, right, and enable Procedural Content Generation Network. Okay, we're just gonna enable for this one. All right, and make sure it is enabled. So it will ask you to restart your engine, and please do. Once you have restarted your engine, you might notice one new thing, which is over on your mode selection, you will have a PCG mode. Okay, if you click on the PCG mode, right now you can create a spline, draw spline, you can also paint, volume, but we are going to concern ourselves more with the spline. Okay, so if we were to test out the spline tool, if you just drag in, you will create a spline. Okay, as you can see here, it's spawning these axes on the mesh points. Okay, what's cool thing about this new PCG tool, all the controls that you want is available here. For example, your random transform, your projection, your spawning. If you want to spawn a static mesh, a specific static mesh, you can spawn it here. Let's say let's spawn a cube, and it will spawn a cube exactly where you want it. And if you want to adjust the offset, where it will start, offset, okay, you can also adjust the random scalability. Okay, let's say minimum 1 and maximum 2, and then it will generate it for you. Okay, but we need to first get our static mesh that we want to replicate with your PCG tool. Okay, so head on to Fab, control spacebar for your content drawer, and head to Fab and find one Quixel asset, Quixel brick. Let's take this brick for example. Okay, this concrete brick right here. Add the project, and it should say downloading project, and concrete block here, and you should get the fab asset in your folder. Okay, oops. Okay, once you have that done, go back to selection mode and let's have a look at our brick right here. So head to Fab, Mega Scans, go in to your static mesh and bring it in. Alright, as you can see, this brick is very tiny, okay, in comparison with our environment. Let's turn snapping off, press end here to snap it to the ground. Okay, so to fill up this whole area with this brick, it will take a lot of resources. Well, it will take multiple samples per se, right? Because it's very tiny, and even if the player were to step on it, it is very minuscule. So we need to scale this mesh up. But before you do that, okay, we need to head on inside the static mesh editor itself. So double click. All right. In the static mesh editor, there will be information on the static mesh right here. Okay, so right now the approximate size is 9 × 4 × 2. Okay, so 9 on the x-axis, 4 on the y-axis, and 2 on the z-axis. All right, we want to scale it up to at least 5 times bigger. Let's try it out. Okay, so what I would suggest is not editing here, which is the static mesh that you have imported from Fab. Okay, what I need you to do, the best practice, is to create a new folder, call this my folder, and create a new static mesh folder, and duplicate that static mesh inside your static mesh folder. Alright, just drag and drop and copy here. Okay. So now there is a copy, a duplicate of that static mesh over here. So this is a different asset from the fab asset that we have here, because we are going to change the asset itself rather than the instance of the asset. Okay. So in your static mesh, okay, double click the static mesh right here. It will have the same size, okay, it will have the same size that we had before, but now we can, okay, I'm just gonna leave the original brick over here and drag the one that we copied and put it to the side. Okay. Press E and D here just to put it on the side. Okay, what we want to do now is adjust this to be at least twice as big, or maybe 3 times bigger or 5 times bigger. So once we have the 2 bricks side by side next to each other, what we need to do is adjust the one that we copied to a different size, maybe times 5 times bigger or 2 times bigger from the original asset that we have, which is this is from fab and this is from our the one that we copied. Okay, so head to modeling mode, and in transform, okay, you can adjust the size. So let's say 5 times bigger. Is that good? Maybe, is it too big? No, 5 times I think will work in our case. Okay, so 5 times bigger than our original mesh, and then complete the transform. Okay, but if you realize, if I drag another one, the transform is not changing. Okay, it's because we haven't baked this transform. So what you gotta do is bake the transform right here. So once you bake the transform, see the copy of it, the instance of the asset will follow the bake model. Okay. Now we do have our static mesh ready for us to use in our spline tool. Okay, what you're gonna do is go to back to PCG mode. All right, in draw spline. Okay, before we draw any spline, I would like for us to set up our static mesh. Okay, so if you have your parameters open in parameters override, okay, you can set your static mesh to the static mesh that you have created. Okay, so for me, okay, before I actually bring it in, I would like to rename this to sm_brick. Okay, once you rename it, now you just can drag and drop the static mesh into your spawn parameters. So now if I were to create my spline, it will spawn my bricks. Okay, following the path that we have created. Okay, so let's try that again. Here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, all right. So now that we have our points, okay, if I disable the static mesh, it's gonna spawn this axis. Okay, and if I enable my static mesh and insert in my brick, they will have the static mesh spawning. Okay, all right. Next, what we need to do is, okay, right now the spacing is not uniform per se, because if I were to, let's say, just draw them in, right, the spacing will be at the points itself. Okay, but we want to control the spacing based on the length of the brick that we have. Okay, how do we find the length of this brick? We can go back to our SM brick, double click, and over here there is approximate size 47. Okay, so with that we can use the sampling tools over here and enable use distance. Okay, distance sampling mode. Okay, and for the distance type in 47. Right, when you put in 47 is gonna follow exactly the length of the brick mesh that you have brought in, okay, the static mesh that you've created. Okay, so if I accept now, this becomes a selection that I can control and bring up here. Okay, so this is the path that we created with the spline tool in Unreal Engine 5.7. okay, so additionally what you can do, you see all these points that is enabled inside your PCG graph. Okay, you can also extend the points by selecting the, okay, if you select your, for example, I select away and select your PCG graph, you can select those points, individual points, and you can adjust them accordingly. Okay, even the angle. Okay, see that? Right, and what you can also do is let me change this to local. I can even extend the spline, like how you use a spline tool in Unreal Engine. Okay, alright, once this is done, what you can additionally do with your new PCG tool actor, okay, is you can lastly make it into your own static mesh. So actor, convert PCG spacing tool to static mesh. Okay, this will convert the path that you made into a static mesh that you can either use chaos to break it, okay, or create a path for the player. Okay, and then save it, and it will be saved as a static mesh that you can use in your level. So as you can see, this becomes a static mesh. It's no longer editable because it's no longer a PCG, but it's a singular static mesh that you can create paths around, or you can even stack them up top of each other to create a winding road. Say, okay, like somewhat like this. Create walls. Okay, there you go. Alright, so if I were to play from here, as you can see, this static mesh has no collision. Okay, I believe it's different from the PCG graph that we made with a collision turned on. So with this, what you need to do is enable the collision for the static mesh that is new. So the collision preset, you can oh my bad, there, go to browse to asset, double click the asset. Okay, and in your collision complexity, just use complex collision as simple, save, and block all. So now if I were to play from here, it will have its collision enabled. Okay, so this is one way for you to use your spline tool in Unreal Engine. Okay, alright, next we are gonna create our floors using this single brick to create our floors, like I mentioned to you at the beginning of the tutorial. Okay, so first thing we need to do, real simple, is we need to create our own PCG graph. Okay, so control spacebar. Alright, head to my folder and create a new folder called PCG graphs. PCG. Alright, and then in your PCG graph, right click and create a new PCG graph under PCG. Okay, here you go, and let's choose an empty graph and call this PCG underscore brick floor. Okay, and let's head into it. Alright, so there's an input and output node. We're just gonna put this aside for now. Okay, so in our PCG graph, using our brick floor, what is important for us to use is splines. Okay, because we are using the spline data and getting the interior of the spline to spawn our mesh. Okay, so right click and get spline data. Okay, Alright, and once you get your spline data, you need a spline sampler. Okay, really easy, really easy. And in your spline sampler, rather than spawning meshes on the spline itself, I want it to spawn inside a closed loop in the spline itself. So rather than dimension on spline, change it to on interior. Okay, and on interior spacing, what we need to keep our eyes to look out for is the spacing is basically the length of our brick, and the border is basically the width, right? So if you go to our brick right now, let's say 47 and 24, okay, that is what we are gonna input in, 47 and 24. Okay, and lastly, let's click on bounded, because we are just gonna spawn inside the loop, so we don't have to worry about everything outside the loop. Okay, and that is your spline sampler setup. Okay, next we're gonna push this out and get a transform point. Okay, so we can have a little rotation that will happen for our mesh. Okay, so on this transform points, okay, we need to set let's have it tilt to the left, tilt 45 degrees to the left. So on your transform point, what I need you to do is in your rotation min and max is set the rotation to 45 degrees. Okay, just 45, straight up 45 degrees. Okay, so what this will do is tilt your brick to the side. Alright, and lastly, before we spawn our mesh, we want to have a little offset on the z-axis. So minimum, I want it to be 0, and maximum, let's say 0.4, maybe 5. Okay, so this transform point will have the offset of up and down that we're gonna have. Okay, lastly, let's drag this out and bring a static mesh spawner. And in the mesh entries, we are gonna add our brick. So let's find sm underscore brick. Should be here. Okay. Alright. So this is our simple PCG graph already done. Okay. But new to Unreal Engine 5.7, there is tool data. Okay. If we were to go Ctrl+Shift+S, let's save everything before we head out. Okay, if we go to our PCG mode, okay, and we look at the spline surface tool, we are gonna utilize this area tool as our base. Okay, because we are gonna use this draw spline sample surface as its place for the tool graph to read our PCG graph. Okay, so if we head into our area tool, okay, so in this area tool, there is in the details panel the tool data. Okay, what we need to concern ourselves is the compatible tool tags. This will make our PCG graph appear in our mode, PCG mode. So for example, here it has spline surface tool. Okay, so let's just copy this. Brick floor in our tool data of our own PCG. Okay, we want to add this compatible tool tags, and display name, let's call this brick floor. Okay, and the tool table spawn brick floors. Okay. And new actor name, we called it PCG brick floor tool. Okay. Alright, so now we save. So once we save and we set our compatible tool tags, what we can do is now in the drop down we can find our PCG brick floor that we can access, and we can start using the spline tool. And there you go, it is spawning our brick mesh. Okay, so as you can see, the spacing is a little off. Alright, so what we can do is head back to our PCG graph. Let me just put this side by side. Floor. Okay, just make it floating and bring back our level. In our surface sampler, we'll decrease this to about maybe 36. Okay, maybe a little closer. 34 suit looks good, and the offset is ready. Okay, so again, what we have to do next is just press accept on the draw spline, and you have yourself your spline floor, and you can adjust this floor on the go. For example, I want, let's adjust this, okay, and make a big mess right here. Let's say, okay, and do this, and bring this up, and let's change this to linear instead. And we can line it up. Okay. Again, with the PCG tool, what you can do is select the PCG brick floor tool, and you can convert it to a static mesh that we can save here. Let's call this SM underscore floor 1. Save. Okay, and then SM floor 1 we can just drag into our scene, and there you go. And don't forget to enable collisions here. By default, complex, as simple, and save. So with that, you can already tell you have created your floors procedurally using PCG, and also created your own PCG tool that you can use modularly. Okay, so I hope you guys find this tutorial helpful, and hopefully you guys can explore more on PCG and how to build your own procedural world on your own. See you next time.